17 minutes after 7, you're still on the AM show. My name is Penis of Wade and he's Kwamna Chenchenhine. It's time to do my banner, and lately we've had a lot of talk about religion and politics.
There have been a lot of messages on this tablet you're holding.
Oh, okay.
A number of them. I think we should just read a few more before
just read a few, okay.
Bring you what it is
all right.
we have for you this morning as far as
a lot of your messages
is
concerned. I had another plan, but
I have a feeling someone will start off with Bukum Banku.
Okay, this one this one is from Zach from New Ebiri Menu, saying, please kindly inform the Deputy Minister of Education that his government cannot continue to lie to us anymore. And you're saying that if they're not posting the trainees, they should rather come out and tell you so that you can find yourself some work to do. And this one says, okay, keep on working and have a wonderful day, Francis. Thank you so much for your message. And this one says, as Mahama was saying that he had completed 200 senior high schools, will you imagine how we are suffering in Ghana? Well, he says he would complete, he would complete it in his second term. That's what he says. So I'll just hold on to the rest of your message. And this one is from Casper. And this one says 99 days for a thief and a day for the master. And you are saying the pastor should keep to his faith. I don't know which pastor, but the only pastor we've been speaking about today is Reverend Martin. I'm sure it's because he came out to say that his PRO who claimed he took the money, he said he didn't take, is a liar.
The devil is a liar.
The devil is a liar. And you're saying that it's so sad when people in office would want money before they do their work. It is clear that the IPPD personnel in Ikuapem North District of GES will place forms teachers waiting for money for the individual teachers before he would work on their forms. Okay, well, we can't verify that independently, so I'm sorry I can't take the rest of your message. And you're saying you've been enjoying the show. Good morning to you too. And President Mahama said he can't build 200 schools. He says, God save Ghana from empty promises. That's not what the president said, please. He says he would finish his job with the community senior high J schools.
It's a continuous process, right?
In his second term, so I'm sure he's just, and sometime he said, agrobeswa if you're not pa. So he tried to say, look, I've shown you. Yes, I've shown you what I can do in the morning. So if you give me the opportunity, I'll complete it in other words, my second term.
I mean, this is what we can do in just 3.5 years, 4 years, you know. Can you imagine what we can do in 8 years or? Is that a thing?
That's what he's saying. So give him another chance. And then someone here is asking Professor Marty to be careful.
Say, I'll go if you're not if given all these resources and given this time, like now, you know, the MPP, they don't calculate this as 4 years. They say it's 8 years. And in 8 years, you are saying this is what you've done. You want 4 more years. Why? Anyway,
okay.
It's interesting.
Well, and this one says, any information about the ongoing police recruitment? Well, yesterday's Daily Graphic had some form of guideline on how to enlist for the graduate police recruitment, how to go through that process so you can get it. Kwamna, this is for you. Someone is saying that you're wrong to say that drug guys in the Philippines are executed following court decisions. You say Duterte is being criticized because he ordered police and ordinary citizens to kill drug dealers who resist arrest, and he thinks that that is extrajudicial killings. And this is coming from Kwekunda Saman, and he addressed that to you. A lot of your messages here. This one says the building of a full complex senior high school is never a day job, so give Mahama time to build the schools. Those of us at the grassroots level are seeing the school buildings going on. This one says, what is leading to the blackout of the manifestos, and when will these manifestos be read to we the electorate? And yesterday there was that opinion in one of the papers that suggested that the people want to know what the manifestos are.
Do the people really want to know? For me, that's the $1 million question. Do the people really want to know?
And aside knowing, do we make our decisions on who to vote for based on what we see in the manifestos at all?
Because even among the elite, you could pick 10 persons whom we claim are part of the elitist in society. Ask them whether in 2012 or in 2008 they even saw the manifestos of any of these parties. Yesterday voted. So even the so-called
so there should be some other indications or some other factors that people consider before voting.
Truly, and even with the manifestos, many of the things that are promised in there are hardly ever done. Hardly ever. Now, Alice from Esiedun Ketia, the General Secretary of the Governing National Democratic Congress, he says it's a clear framework or a plan they intend to execute. As to whether they will be able to execute it fully or not, well, that's another thing.
So it's just a roadmap.
Exactly.
Okay, and well.
So that's how I guess we should all see manifestos, a roadmap, a path on which the various political parties in the country want to chart.
But others also see it as some form of evidence that you could use to justify or use to grade the performance of political parties or governments.
They would say it will be erroneous
after leaving office. Well,
they would say it will be erroneous.
Interesting. Well, this is Benjamin from Somenia Kwabna. You may want to answer this. He says, please answer my question. Where's Mama V and Roland, not Raymond?
Mama V and Roland. Okay. I need to answer.
Yeah, you need to answer.
Okay. Okay, I think do I need to answer?
Yes, you need to answer. Okay. They want to know where they are.
They will be back soon.
They'll be back soon. We're just holding the fort for them.
They're taking a break.
And
they should be back soon, a lot more energized, with a lot more refreshing ideas and thoughts. And you know what? It's going to be a better AM show anyway, so don't worry about it. They'll be back shortly. Mama V and Roland.
Let me pick this last message and we can go on with the show. This one says, I plead with Professor Mate in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ to endeavor to stay silent and stay clear of these public confrontational outbursts. God is our protector. This is from Emmanuel Opongba in Achim Kwabna. So that'd be it for your messages
for the many
messages
on our platforms. But you can keep them coming anyway. You can bring as many as possible. Just send them to us 0560 800,000 0560 800,000, and we'll gladly share it with the rest of the world on our various social media platforms as well. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is Joy News on TV. We're also streaming live on our YouTube channel, My Joy Online, and when you get there, you don't necessarily need a digibox or any digital television. You can watch us online anywhere you are across the continent and indeed all over the world. But time now for my banner, and it's been pretty interesting, that very conversation about religion, politics, the role of religious leaders, the politicians and all, and Christian Council of Ghana and the National Peace Council. I mean, there's been a lot of conversation around all these issues. But again, it has to do with, some would say, leadership. Speaking of leadership, we've been having a bit of a conversation with some pretty important people as far as the Christendom in Ghana is concerned. Maybe you would usher us into that very conversation.
All right. So this particular conversation was with the new chairman of the Christian Council of Ghana, Reverend Dr. Ernest Edujemfi. He's been having, he's been speaking to us about a lot of things that he'd like to do as a leader, what he would like to see the Christian Council achieve. My colleague, Derek Ekosam, had that interview with him.
Well, at its annual general meeting in August, they had to see off Reverend Professor Mate, and somebody else had to take over. So it's more of exit Reverend Professor Mate, enter Reverend Dr. Ernest Edujemfi. He's the president of the Ghana Baptist Convention, and he's here today to talk to us. We'll get into his life as a pastor, speak about pastors offering their pulpits, because you know he said that he doesn't think that pastors have to offer their pulpits to politicians to campaign. But what really does he mean by all of this? Let's get to talking. Reverend, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Hope you are fine.
Good.
I like your shirt. Is it purple?
This is called Roman purple.
Roman purple. Are you into colors?
Yes, we are.
Okay, because I know there's peach, there's turquoise, and all of that.
That's right.
That's more like a deviation from the traditional colors.
No, in terms of our denomination, the colors determines the ranking of the minister. And so for anyone in the Ghana Baptist Convention who wears the Roman purple, you were either a current president, vice president, a former general secretary or president of the convention, a president or vice president or a former vice president of our ministers' conference. So anyone in that category is in that high level of our ministerial ranking. And then you come to the gray color, that comes to our next level, which covers our association heads and some of the heads of our institutions. Then you move into blue, and then the black is for newly ordained ministers.
So the shirt you wear determines how high or let's say low you are in the ministry of God.
That's right.
Great. So Reverend Dr. Ernest Edujimfi, well, it's a familiar name, but not everybody knows a lot about you. Run us through all of that, when you were born, where you were born. I guess you're married, I can see the ring.
Yeah, I was born in Kumasi. Okay. My parents were, my father's name was Kofi Edu. He was a businessman. He ran a business called Edu Brothers. And so those who are back into the 50s and 60s will know him. My mother was Akosi Edu Chonwa. Both of them have passed on. My father married several women, and so we are 36 in all when you count my father's children.
36 kids.
36 kids.
Wow.
But out of that, my mother had 3, 2 ladies and myself. Both of them reside in the UK. So I'm the only one here in Ghana. I began my school in Amankwetia early primary and middle school. Amankwetia is just behind the Kumasi Sports Stadium. So that was where I began my education. In 1968, I went to Konongo Secondary School for a year.
Of course.
Not Konongo Dumasi Secondary, this is Konongo Secondary School. It used to be a private school. I was there for a year, and after that I moved to Kumasi Academy in 1969. I left secondary school in 1974, came to the Institute of Professional Studies, studied accounting under the Association of Accountants program, concluded in 78, went into private practice as an accountant. So for 12 years I worked with different organizations as an accountant. And then in 1988 I began my own business. I went a little bit into trading and into manufacturing. For those of you who've been in Joy for a while, you would have known there was a company running as Multimedia. That was my company.
Okay.
Right, so we were into music production, we were into cassette production. In fact, I began the local assembling of cassette tapes, and I introduced duplication of CDs into this country.
Okay.
But while doing business, I was also doing ministry together. I began ministry in 1974 while I was in secondary school. I preached in the school, preached in various other campuses. And then while I was in IPS, I continued, still under Scripture Union. And then after that, I was part of 2 musical groups, New Creation in Kumasi and Joyful Way Singers in Accra. So I had been in ministry with all these groups. And then I was a member of Grace Baptist Church in Kumasi. In fact, I got converted on the 3rd of December 1973 while I was in my final year in Kumasi Academy. And because Kumasi Academy is a Baptist school, I finally moved to become a Baptist. So I joined Grace Baptist Church in Kumasi. In the early 80s, we moved to live in Bokrom. And so that was where I began my first church planting work. With a group of 6 people, we started the Bokrom Baptist Church. I led the church for 2.5 years and then moved to Accra and joined St. John's Baptist Church. We did a little bit of work. And then in 1988, I moved to Taifa to begin the Charismatic Baptist Church. So I led the church and pastored it for 25 years before moving into this position. But in between all those, I was also studying. I went to Maranatha Bible College, now Maranatha University College, graduated from there for my first theological education. After that, I went to the US and studied for my master's at the Baptist Theological Seminary in Richmond, Virginia. I came back and worked for a while and went back to do my doctoral studies. And so for my master's program, I concentrated on Christian education. And in my doctoral studies, I concentrated on justice and peace building. So that's a little bit about myself.
Not so little anyway, but would you say that it's been a smooth ride to the top?
It hasn't been, but it requires a lot of commitment. If you look at the little background that I've given, it's been a combination of business, church work, and studying at the same time. And to put all these together is a lot of work. But with determination, one can get to any level that one wants to be.
Let me pick your thoughts on Christian education in the country. It appears that the churches have contributed a lot because most of these big schools have these churches as their foundation. Would you say that with the influx of the schools, the churches are losing their grip on education?
I wouldn't say we've lost our grip on education. We've lost our grip on a little bit of education, which is the moral education, because that is where the churches have, because we've transferred most of our schools to the government, we don't have that hold as we used to have in the past. But all in all, mission schools have kept a certain bit of our hold, because we still have chaplains in some of our schools, and so they still continue to conduct some services there. And so that bit of it is still there, even though it's not as it used to be in the past, when we had maximum control over the schools, and so we could do whatever we wanted to do.
But would you wish that the churches take back their schools, sort of, so they have absolute control over what happens in the school?
That will be difficult, but I think that the partnership between the church and the state should be deepened. I would say that the church cannot do it, because we cannot take up the full responsibility of bearing the full cost. At the same time, the state can also move the church away, because we provide some basic support to the various schools that the state cannot do. So we need to continue to have that partnership. But I believe that the state should be able to allow the church to have a lot more to do in terms of moral education in the schools.
Do you feel hindered in your pursuit of academic excellence as a mission school?
I wouldn't say so, except that the core mandate of establishing mission schools was, one, to provide education, and also to use as a means of evangelism. Now, that bit of it is what we don't fully have now, because in the past we provided education and used that as a basis of teaching people to read the Bible. Now the focus isn't just that, and even when it comes to religious studies, it is not what it used to be during our time. Now it's a mixture of all kinds of things. So that is where the church has lost out in terms of giving our schools to the state.
So that also brings to mind the issue that keeps recurring, where you have Muslims in Christian schools, and during the month of Ramadan, it's more like they are being forced to go the Christian way. How do you find a lasting solution to this feud?
I believe that there ought to be continual discussion of these issues. All mission schools have a basic reason for beginning those schools. With time, because we've given them out, it's become more of a secular thing. And yet the core mandate of establishing every mission school still remains. And denominations, the church, the Islamic religion and everything will still pursue their objectives. So that core problem is going to be there. But I believe that through discussion, we should be able to find a lasting solution to these problems.
What do you think is the ideal way to
go? I think that the missions should be able to allow to pursue their basic objective. If it's a Christian school, it's a Christian school. If I make a choice to go to a Christian school, I must be ready to go through the things that are taught there. And I believe that in the past, we didn't used to have this problem. We've been to school with Muslims. When I was growing up, sometimes I used to join my Muslim friends in Asafo to go to the mosque and pray, even though I didn't understand what they were doing. I would just bow down because they were my friends. And I think that one of the key things we need to understand in this country is, one, we are Ghanaians. And we need to see ourselves as Ghanaians, number one, and then two, we then begin to look at ourselves in terms of our religion. If we understand ourselves as being Ghanaians first, I believe that most of the problems we have that comes out of religion can be minimized.
It appears that you have love for what we call participatory development, where the citizens also help to build up the country. But what do you think should be the role of the citizen in developing the country?
The individual has a lot to contribute in terms of national development. It's unfortunate that in Africa, we always look up to the government to do all the things that they do. Sometimes I'm amazed at the number of people who have the potential to begin something on their own and yet are not able to do those things. And I believe that the opportunity is around all of us. You need to have the eye to see and the passion to do what you want to do. For example, I spoke about being in business for some time back. And I got into business because I observed my own environment. I had been in New Creation, I've been in Joyful Way Singers. We had done recordings. I had saw the problems we had in those days in terms of mass production of music. And when I saw those things, I decided that this is something that nobody else was doing. And it was important for somebody to get into that. So that was why I got into the cassette business. And when I introduced SKC brand of cassettes into this country, nobody had heard of them. And the first 1-2 months that I brought those things into this country, nobody even wanted to buy them because these things were from Korea. Those times were used to TDK, Sony, Maxell, and that kind of thing. But I pursued it until I got to the point where we became one of the big companies in terms of music production in this country. So the citizenry of this country have a lot to contribute. We just have to look at our own environment, see what is available, see what opportunities are there, and then get involved.
Has it always been a dream to rise to the top as a minister of God?
I wouldn't say it's been a dream. I believe that it's a calling of God. And God has his person at any given moment to occupy a certain place or to do a certain or particular job.
But did you see this coming?
I wouldn't say yes or no. We have given ourselves to serve, and once you are ready to serve, whatever opportunity comes your way, you just get into it.
Were you the sole candidate for this top job of the chairperson of the Christian Council of Ghana?
No. The selection of the head of the council is done by heads of churches. And so the heads of churches meet and we discuss the issue, and then we vote as to who we want to lead the council at a particular time.
So is it more like the way the Catholics elect their pope?
I wouldn't say so. The Catholics have much more of a longer period of waiting. The council's situation isn't that long, but we have time to reflect on where we are at a particular time and whom we think will be able to lead us at that particular time.
So where were you when your name was mentioned to be the one to take over from controversial Reverend Professor Marty?
Well, we were all together. Reverend Marty was there. All the heads of churches were in a meeting. We had an executive meeting. They excused us as heads of churches to move into the General Secretary's office to deliberate and to bring a proposal. And so we got together, we talked, we prayed a little, and made a decision by secret ballot.
Okay, and then it was announced that you were to lead.
Yes.
How did you feel?
Well, excited, but it comes with a burden.
Okay.
This is a job without any salary. What you get out of it is insults. So it's one of those things, a very big sacrifice, but it comes as a certain honor when you are recognized as the head of all the churches in the country. It comes with a certain honor. But it's not a job that comes with any remuneration. You still are supported by your own denomination to do whatever you have to do.
Did you feel the burden on you when you were asked to lead, and did you at any point in time think twice about heading it?
I wouldn't say yes to that because I had been the vice chair of the council for the last 2 years. And so in a way, I anticipated that it could happen, you know. And so to me, it was not too much of a surprise.
You're coming into the position at a time when there seems to be a rift between the council and the politicians. How do you intend bridging that gap? I
don't think that there is a rift.
Okay.
We need to understand ourselves and to understand the role of the church and the role of the politician. Much as the politicians serve the state, I believe that they also need to understand that the church is also serving a certain constituency. If you look at the fact that 71% of this country is made up of Christians and close to 20 or a little over are Muslims, we are looking at the fact that religion plays a major role in this country. And the church and also religion has contributed a lot in terms of our nation building. We can go back way back to 1529 when education began in this country. It was by the church. You know, we've built all these educational institutions, and we still have. If you look at health, if you go to our rural areas now, mission hospitals are carrying over 40% of hospitals in the rural areas. We have provided in several things. If I look at my own denomination, we run hospitals, we do borehole projects in villages, we have used our facilities as community centers and other things for various places. We keep on doing it. We have orphanages, we have vocational schools, we introduced the Trokosi project into this country. Even though we've been in the background, nobody knows that Baptists were the leaders in this whole thing. No, we've done a lot in terms of what we do to develop this country. So the politicians should understand the role of the church. We have just become the voice of the voiceless. And daily, we as pastors and as religious leaders have direct encounter with people. After work, they come to church, they raise their complaints. The market is difficult, this is not there, that is not there. We hear all these things. We travel all across the country. The Ghana Baptist Convention now has 2,200 churches across the country. And I travel all over the place. So you go to rural settings, you see roads, you see rural water problems, you see electricity problems, you see dilapidated schools, you see all these things. So when we are speaking as heads of churches, it is because of what we have seen, what we have heard, and the things that we have observed. So I believe that politicians will be served very well if they are patient enough to listen to us as partners with them, so that the things we point out to them is not just to criticize them, but to draw their attention to the difficulties of our own people.
Do you think they're being too hard on you?
Well, sometimes they are. And I believe that is the inability to listen. You know, most of the issues we have raised sometimes are not placed in context. And I believe that if the issues are placed in context, people will be relaxed. If I look at the past 1 month, I've been in the news on various platforms. I've spoken about electricity not being at the airport. Nobody has attacked me. I've spoken about visa on arrival. Nobody has attacked me. And it's because you put the situation in context. When the reporters report in context, it becomes easier for politicians to understand where we are. But if the report is taken out of context, then we run into problems.
What do you make of media houses that are pro-government and pro-opposition?
I believe that those things have not been helpful.
Okay.
The media is supposed to put out information. And I believe that we should put out information and allow the public to judge the situation. So you put up accurate information. And once you can put out accurate information and people have the prerogative to make a judgment, it is much more helpful. The people are informed. You don't seem to be taking a position. You leave the people to make their own judgment and to be able to take a position.
But the others who think that whether pro-government or pro-opposition, you still have a duty to tell the truth, and so you may be telling the truth, but it is skewed towards your end.
I don't think that those things are helpful.
Okay.
You know, we've had some international stations that have survived over the years just because they've stayed focused on just telling the story and leaving people to make their own judgment. When we do those things, it's much more helpful to our own people to be able to discern between the issues.
You are taking over from a man who's been described as very controversial. Are you that controversial?
I don't think I am. We will continue to speak as the voice of the voiceless. But I believe that temperaments are different.
Okay.
And so my predecessor's temperament certainly is different from mine. And so we may be speaking the same thing, but maybe the way it might be spoken might appear a little different.
So what you mean is that we should expect the hard-hitting truth, but not in that manner?
Well, truth is truth, whether hard or soft. It is still truth, and we will still keep telling the truth. But for me, apart from my own temperament, coming from the background of holding a doctorate degree in justice and peace building, places me another context altogether. So my approach to issues comes with a certain background. And I believe that people will understand the way I will approach issues when it comes to some of these things. And it's coming from the background with which I come into this office.
There are others who think that your predecessor's last comments, the bribery allegations and all of that, were uncalled for, and that he could have just let the matter die down without even raising it. What do you think?
Well, I want to stay away from that controversy. Because it was spoken outside the context of the council. And so we don't want to draw the council into that kind of discussion. Secondly, it was his private view, and we want to allow his private view to stand as his private view.
Would you say that as a country we have done well in differentiating between who a person is and the position the person holds?
I don't think we've done too well. Sometimes we mix up the two, and it's sometimes difficult to differentiate one's private life from his public life. And it's some kind of a worry sometimes, and especially when you rise up in social circles, people cannot separate the two, and sometimes we bundle the whole thing together, and you see attacks coming on you, coming on your family and everything, which shouldn't be the case.
But, for example, I work with Joy News. That tag is with me everywhere I go. I don't have a private life anymore. And so the notion is that if you're a man of God, if you hold a certain position, even if you have gone to your village to visit your mother, you are still going there as the chairman of the Christian Council of Ghana.
Well, that we recognize. Even though that is not supposed to be the case, we still are mindful of those things. That anytime I walk out, I recognize that I'm head of a church. And so I'm very careful with what I do, what I say, and how I conduct myself.
Does that hinder your, does that stop you from being who you are?
It shouldn't. Depending on where you want to go and what you want to do. If I want to be in my house and I want to wear my shorts and feel relaxed, it is my home. It is how much you expose yourself to the public. I have my public role. I come out as a head of a council, chair my meetings, make my public statements. After that, I'm gone. I speak as the head of the Baptist denomination. I speak after that, I'm gone. But if I want to be everywhere and be meddling in everything, then you're exposing yourself too much. So we need to be able to separate this public life from our private life. I think when we do that, we also allow our own families to have some privacy instead of being everywhere and throwing everybody into trouble.
Why don't we have the chairpersons of the Christian Council coming out to speak on issues? It's always the General Secretary who speaks.
The chairman of the council and the General Secretary are supposed to be the two voices of the council. Now, the General Secretary is the one who runs the council on the day-to-day basis. So he is very active in a lot of things. The chairman comes in some of the public gatherings, in chairing the council meetings and leading some other, and then also representing council at certain fora. But outside that is the General Secretary who is doing the day-to-day running of the council. That is why you're running
the president and the prime minister.
That's right.
But does it help?
Well, it's helpful in a way because the chairman of the council is always the head of another denomination. And so you have your own denomination to take care of, and then you have the activities of the council also to take care of. And so by being away from the day-to-day running of the council, it gives you time also to attend to your own denomination and the denominational issues.
For how long will you be in office?
It's a 1-year term.
Renewable?
Yes, for another year.
For another year, so at most you can be in office for 2 years.
2 years.
What really are your plans?
Well, we'll pursue the goal of the council. We will continue to build stronger ties with other councils. We already have very strong relationship with the Cali Bishops Conference. Last year, early this year, we began with the Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Council. We are going to do everything possible to try to bring all the other councils together so that when we speak as a Christian body, we know that we are speaking as one unit. So ecumenism will be one of our focus. We will continue with our interfaith activities with our Muslims, with friends. We will continue to dialogue to help to ensure that we will minimize the tension in our country. So those are key things we will be looking at. But our activities in terms of meeting the needs of the poor will continue to be on our hearts and our minds.
At the end of your tenure, what would you want to be remembered for?
A very strong council. Continuing with the advocacy programs, and these are things that I believe that I would still want to be remembered for.
What is that one thing that you want to leave behind when you are going away?
To ensure that the financial base of the council is very solid and strengthened enough to be able to stand on its feet.
Some people think that we have too many mushroom churches and these people are sort of exploiting the people. Is the council worried?
Yes, we are.
And what are you doing about it?
It's difficult for us to put in any intervention because not all of them are part of the council. We have 26 denominations and 3 Christian organizations as part of the council. Now, there are several others who are outside the council, and that is the reason why we are trying now to build these stronger relationships with these other councils. As I said, with the Catholics, we've always been there, and once every year we have a meeting with the Bishops' Conference. We've done the same thing with the Charismatic Pentecostal Council. We want to reach out to all the others. Now, when we are able to do that, then we have a platform to be able to discuss these issues together. Because we see some of the excesses, and we see people taking advantage of the ignorant people of our country in the name of religion. We see all those things happening. And sometimes our concern is that very few bad nuts create a big problem for the rest of us. And because of that, it makes us worry.
Some people think that we should sort of have a punishment for errant men of God. What do you think?
That would be a difficult thing to do.
Why should it be difficult? They are as human as we are.
Well, if the person breaks the law of the country, you have every right to take him or her on. But if what we are discussing is something that cannot be judged in terms of the laws of the country, but in terms of religion, it's going to be very difficult to be able to hold any of such people accountable.
What do you make of suggestions and statements like, because of the way politicians are treating us, very soon we won't even have people to mediate?
Well, I think that anyone who says that is being a coward in a way.
Even if the person is a man of God?
Yes, he is. You know, we are supposed to be bold. And Moses admonished Joshua, be strong and be bold. Okay. You know, our call to this profession requires a certain boldness. Even though you may be soft-spoken, you may be an introverted person, but you need a certain strength within to be able to stand, because we are taking care of people. And if you don't have that kind of boldness, you can't be able to stand. So the insults may be there, criticisms may be there, people will be bashing us left and right, but we still have to be bold. The other thing is that if you take some of these things personally, then the temptation is for you to feel like I'm being attacked. No, it's a statement I put out, and people are attacking that statement. So I leave it as a statement and not as an individual. And if you can put yourself in that state, you will be able to withstand most of the things that are going on.
We are a few months away from the elections. Do you have a favorite political party?
No.
But would you vote?
Yes, I will.
What would you vote for?
Now, I can't make it public.
But campaign manifestos, promises going about, how do we decipher between which ones are real and feasible and which ones are not?
Well, I think that we need to be discerning enough to listen to people and listen to them very well, not to be carried away by emotions. Sometimes people are just carried away because they are shouting and they are following. But just listen to them carefully. Look at the reality. You listen to the politician, you listen to business news, and you make a comparison between what I'm hearing in the business news and what I'm hearing from the politician. You know, so if world market prices are dropping in terms of crude oil, and you are telling me that you are going to use the oil money to expand and build schools and do things, and I sit back and ask my question, where is that money going to come from when your prices are dropping? So people should be able to make that distinction between listening to the other side of the story to make a good judgment.
Some people think that politics has now become an opium for the masses. True or false?
It's, in a way, yes, but we need to make a change.
How do you change it?
By educating our own people. You know, we need to do a lot of education for people to understand that let's not just be following because people are shouting, but be careful enough to listen to what exactly people are saying, the politicians are saying, what it means to my life, what it means to my future, and be able to make a firm decision as to where you want to go and who
you have
you
a
want to
favorite
follow.
Politician?
At the moment, I would say no.
Okay. But as we get ready to vote, peace messages here and there, what is your peace message?
My peace message is that let us, one, recognize that we have only one Ghana. And this is the only country we have. We cannot run to any other place. So let us approach elections with all the decorum that we need to ensure that there will be peace in this country before, during, and after the election.
Others think that the politicians need to conduct themselves well if you really want to keep the peace we have.
They have to, just as the citizenry also have to. Everybody must make sure that we conduct ourselves properly. You know, I have said on various platforms that if any politician tells a young man, go and fight, ask that politician to bring his or her son or daughter to lead the fight before you follow. Because you have your own future at stake. You know, if I look at where our country is going now in terms of education, when banks are now employing graduates to be tellers, it tells you that we are heading towards a situation where if you don't take your academic studies serious, you run into trouble. So why do I jump after people when I have my studies? So I will encourage a lot of young people, get on to your books, study, seek to look at your own future and what you want to do in future, instead of following these politicians and just be shouting all around the place.
Do you listen to secular music?
Sometimes I do.
What type of songs do you listen to?
My favorite is more of jazz music.
Jazz music?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So you don't listen to hip life at all?
No. When my kids are playing, maybe I listen to them, but I'm not a follower of hip life.
Some people have problems with the lyrics these musicians churn out lately. What do you say? Because your kids listen to them, the lyrics may have an influence on them.
Well, it's worrying, especially having been in the music industry before.
Okay.
I've been with all the old people. I produced almost everybody in this country before. So you go back and listen to music of the past. That was more educative. It was instructive. You listen to music and realize that it gives a certain advice. What we're getting now is not like that. And it gives a sense that we are losing a certain value of our own culture. And I believe that our people will go back. The other thing is that some other African countries have been able to popularize their own culture through their music. Right now, we've lost our life.
Okay.
And I don't know where we are going. And if we really want to put Ghana on the map, I think that we need to go back to those roots and begin to produce music with a certain quality.
Do you love reggae?
Not really.
What's your favorite reggae song?
I would say I have a favorite one.
but which one would you want to listen to over and over again?
Now I've been out of those things for a while, so sometimes it's very difficult to immediately recollect.
If you had a chance to advise any Ghanaian musician on his lyrics, who would it be?
Of late, I have not listened to them carefully. So by name, I will not be able to mention them. But
by song?
By song, it was, sometimes it's a little bit difficult.
Recently, you've also been in the news for saying that you don't think that your fellow pastors should offer their pulpits to these politicians to campaign. But the notion is that the politicians are part of us. If they come to the churches to talk to the people, we should allow them to speak to us.
Yes, we recognize that politicians are members of our local churches. But when we gather in church, or when they come to church, they have come to church, they have not come to do politics.
Okay.
And I believe that they need to respect the space within which they are. The reason why I say that we should not allow our platforms to be used by politicians is the fact that the church is made up of people with diverse political backgrounds. So once you promote one over the other, you are creating conflict in your own church and in your own denomination, you know. So my advice is that in order not to create that kind of conflict, keep them away. If they want to come and worship, fine. But if you want to create a platform for politicians, then bring as many of them as possible. So I have an MPP here, and I have an NDC, I have a PP here, or wherever it is. Let's say I have an evening of political discussion. We've created a program. All of you come, speak your mind. Then the people are there to judge. But if I give one platform to one person and does not do the same for another, I'm creating a problem in the local church.
Are you afraid to be tagged?
Not necessarily to be tagged, but I think that we need to exercise wisdom in the handling of these things.
Have you ever been tagged?
Not yet.
Would you want to be tagged?
I don't hope to.
But why wouldn't you want to be tagged?
Well, because I'm not tagged.
What do you make of men of God who think they have been gagged because they've been tagged?
I don't think we need to be gagged. No. We still have to speak our minds. It is, as I said earlier on, how you say what you say, that will determine whether you can be tagged or not. You know, people can always be suspicious. And we've seen it over and over. When one of my own ministers, Reverend Digby, was in Christian Council, there were times that one morning he was called an MPP, the other morning he was called an NDC. It's there, we know it. You know, I have made some statements in the past, and somebody will say that the man doesn't even know what he's talking about. And sometimes I laugh over them, you know, because at least having studied up to this level, you have a certain understanding of issues, you know. So all these issues are there, but it depends on how you say what you say and the context within which it is said and how you communicate those things. So if we are mindful of these things, even though people may be suspicious of where you are, you can still navigate and stay neutral.
Reverend, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. I wish you all the best in your service to God and country. We are really grateful for your time.